Yeah, and they don't want to give. What's on the other four?
Like that, trying
Yeah,
to.
there's 20, and that's so. So when you're role playing berries, sometimes you $60, sometimes not.
Energy, and you can feel it.
Yeah,
That's the part that's so crazy.
that just separates.
Because in New York, I've seen girls and things like
Sometimes.
interested in like New York, it's like my name's like, you go to your they're like, yeah, once I got you, don't worry about it. I'm the commissioner. Like real mafia. They have a better response than this dude.
For people. It's like, oh, 100. So after you read the script and you feel comfortable saying it, then you have
And
a lot of
they have
people.
oh my gosh, so many people.
Yeah.
They have, I think, fashion, you meet everybody,
Yeah.
because there's nobody. I've met everybody. All of them, like, if people are like, yeah, I met that person, that.
I'm
That this
great third, fourth time,
I think
then you can start putting your.
because the mom has that family,
They tell
they
you.
go on, they're not rude, and I was thinking how.
Don't dump down.
Sometimes I would come home from the club, drug dealer should be standing on the corner. Because I think ride the subway. It's 2-3 in the morning. Like, safe. I treat it as like supposed to start making like, watch you walk down the street. It's like. It's really so nice.
Okay. It's too bright. Yes. That's that. I see.
Can we start talking about leasing?
Yes,
Alrighty.
please.
Great, let's start talking about leasing. So, I believe that you want to take over an area, that you can do it with leasing.
You say take over an area.
Take over an area as be the dominant agent in a farm area, in a geographic area. So if I want to take over an area, take market share, I would drive around an area, and every single for lease or for rent sign that I saw, I would call the phone number on the sign and say, "Hi, this is JJ Wallack with Keller Williams, Beverly Hills. I see your sign in front of such and such address for lease. Would you like to advertise your property on the MLS?" Right? And you're either gonna get a no, thank you, probably not. Or you're gonna get a tell me more about that. How much does it cost? What's involved, right? So that's what I would do to take over an area. I would just drive around and call lease signs. They are everywhere, by the way. I am noticing a lot more leases that are not on the MLS right now. When I do my comps and I'm looking for comparable sold or comparable rentals, what have they leased for? I am noticing that there's a lot on apartments.com and Zillow that were not listed in the MLS.
And do you think, I'm saying this, people are getting more into condo living and apartment living than they have before here, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just that's affordability. So every single landlord is your target, right? Because they're not in the MLS. So what, it's not that you're gonna make a ton of money on one lease. But when you have a whole area and you're the dominant listing agent for leases in that area, you're gonna be talking to investors that own income property. You can sell them other income property. Their investors are always looking for a deal. They have money where they know where to go to get it. So there's a lot that can come out of it. Just to do one lease here and there is not money. But to do a lot of them and pick up clients, investor clients, that's good. And then don't forget, you're also talking to people that are leasing while they're looking for a home because they haven't found something that they can buy yet or timing. So those are potential buyers, right? You're talking, and they could be a right now buyer, or they could be, put them in a lease and then try to find them something to buy while they're in the lease. So there's a lot of opportunity that can come out of it. If my wife said, JJ, we're moving, we're going somewhere else, I think the fastest way to get into a market and get dominance is through this method. To get your signs out there. Like, people will see your signs right away. So you're gonna have to invest in some signs, right? Now, talking about signs real quick. So we use a company called Quick Signs. Now, this company, Quick Signs, I've gone through different companies for signs, since I've started real estate. There are signs that turn yellow in the sun and signs that wear out. I've had a really, really good experience with this company's signs. They're wraps. So you can't even tell that they're a wrap. It's like a laminate that goes on top of the plastic, and they don't turn yellow. They can be outside forever. There's different signs. I just want to talk really quick about signs. So they have different packages, if you're going to order like directional signs and for sale signs. So these are 32 by 24. These are the big ones that hang on the wood post. You have someone come in and they put that wood post in. These are the ones that swing back and forth and hang on them, 32 by 24. Then you have these 24 by 18 signs. So 24 by 18 are going to be a little smaller, obviously. They can be used in some HOA, allow you to put this big sign. There are HOAs that will allow you to put this size sign, like the HOA area, like Beverlywood, for example, will allow an 18 by 24. Now Beverly Hills, the Beverly Hills sign is not on this order form. It's a special size. Beverly Hills allows 150 square inches. So 10 by 15, 10 inches by 15 inches. And I would recommend getting a bunch of 10 by 15 inch signs. Those will be for Beverly Hills, and they'll also be for condos. So when I see signs in front of condos everywhere for lease or for sale, they're usually the 10 by 15. Some condos, rare, but it happens. You'll see a condo HOA building. They'll have like their own post, their own area for signs. And you need to order a sign specifically that matches the style of the building. It's pretty rare, but I've seen that, and I've had to order signs like that before. You'll know it when you get one of those. And then I want to talk real quick about these directional signs. So when you do an open house, these are the signs that they put out on the corners. Usually one directly in front of your property that's open, facing the property, obviously the arrow. And then you'll put one on each corner of the property. And then you'll probably put more on the major streets, bringing traffic from the major streets. I would also recommend putting signs out in front of other open or on the corners of other open houses at the same time, day and time, to steal traffic from them. Divert. So
their sign is on one corner, you put it on.
So if there's an open house 2 streets away, I want to make sure I have a sign on the corner 2 streets away pointing towards me. So because people are going to be coming to see that property. So when I'm strategizing where I'm going to put my signs, they're going to go on the major streets pointing towards me, and then they're also going to go on the corners near other open houses pointing towards me too. So, that's how you get traffic to your open houses. I used to put out 30 signs. It took a long time to put them out. It took a long time to pick them up. It took a long time to clean them.
Do you have a truck?
Yeah, but I was gonna say,
I had 10, I don't remember, back then I had a Lexus ES, a big it was a 4-door sedan, and I was able to put 10 signs on each floor and seat, I guess, 10 to 20, and then 10 in the trunk or 10. I was able to put floor, back seat, and then any remainders in the trunk. And then I had flats. So yeah, it's a big process. But the people that I talked to while I was putting out and picking up my signs was part of it. Right? Because people see you put out a sign and they stop. They're like, what do you got? And I had flyers that I was bringing to my open house. So I would hand them a flyer. I'd say, please come. And I would talk to them. And, you know, so you can do business also during the time you're picking up and putting out your signs. So when you put out signs, I recommend that you go on Google Maps. And, you know, wherever you are going, you have to plan this because if you're putting out a lot of signs. So let's just say you're putting out, your open house is, all right, Beverly Hills is an example, but okay, so let's say we're gonna be putting out, we're gonna have an open house right here. Can you see my mouse? So right there. So we're gonna have to have a sign on the corner of the street. We're gonna be bringing traffic from a major street, major street, major street, major street. And then you usually want to have your sign on the corner that's turning right. So does that make sense? I put my signs where someone needs to make a right around my sign. That's the right place, I think, to have a sign. The one
They can read it.
They see it.
they see when they're coming up, right? The people coming the other way can make a left. If they're looking left, like I don't know, that's the place. So now there's different sizes of signs. You can get the 18 by 24 signs. And then you can get 24 by 24 signs. The difference between the 24 by 24 is that the 24 by 24. I don't see. Okay, the 24 by 24 8 signs have room for these clear pockets, these slips, where you can print on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and slide it into your sign. Why would I do that? For the property address. I can put the property address, I can put the time. You know, sometimes I'll print my property addresses and the time, 11 to 2, and then I'll have 2 to 5 or 1 to 4. So, you know, it's a lot of work, but you know what? You're making good money, so it's worth it.
JJ, what part of town doesn't allow signs? West Hollywood?
West Hollywood does not allow signs on public areas. So you cannot put any signs on public sidewalks. You can put your signs on private property. So you can knock on the house on the corner and say, can I put my sign on your lawn during my open house? Right? Hopefully they won't have a problem with you having a sign there for 3 or 4 hours. But you have to ask. It can't be on public property.
You can also park a car and put the sign on top of it.
Yes, so I've parked my car in front, put the sign on top of my car. I've gotten away with it. I've heard of other agents getting flagged for it.
Really?
I've heard of it, like, but for me, I've always been able to get away with it. I'm just lucky.
Yeah.
So Beverly Hills does not allow signs also on the corner. But agents usually do put one on the corner for their property, even though they're not supposed to.
They put a small one, like small.
Yeah, so you are allowed one sign in front of the property, open house. You're allowed one flag, I believe, maybe no.
Flag, no flag.
No flags. I don't know. So there are ordinances. It's easy to look up. Like it's very easy. So
Police comes in.
just go to Google and I'll say Beverly Hills open house sign. I mean, it's pretty easy. Now, whenever I do a Google search, I want to get to the truth, not what other people are saying. The truth to me is a government website. I only want to see government. So here's City of Beverly Hills, real estate signs. Perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. Real estate signs. It is illegal to post, display, or maintain a real estate sign on any public property or public right of way, including but not limited to curbs, parkways, and driveway. That means I can put signs on private property. So again, I have to knock on the person's door and I put a sign on your property. Okay. Signs with more than one face are not permitted at any location. So no A-frame. No A-frame signs that have sign on each side.
No A-frame on a private property?
I've never seen this before. Signs with more than one face are not permitted and you can't use A-frame signs. So basically Beverly Hills is now saying no more A-frame. Can't use A-frame signs. Now, whenever you put a sign in a for sale in front of someone's house or for rent, you have to go to City Hall, a couple of streets down, right? But on Rexford, go to City Hall. You'll walk in and you'll say, I need a sign license. And you're gonna have to pay for a sign license. Yeah, stickers may be purchased at City Hall during regular business hours, Monday through Thursday, 7:30 to 5:30, and Friday, 8 to 5. Click on this handout. Okay. So here's the single family. You're allowed 150 square inches in front of a house, in front of a condo, 150 square inches. Multifamily, you can be up to 500 square inches. So if you have an apartment building, you can have one giant sign for the full apartment building, right? 500. I've never. I mean, for us, we don't do this. Commercial agents would have something like. Commercial zone max 12 square feet, but that's commercial zone, so that's usually not good. So that's it. But here's where the 150 square inches comes from. So, all right, let's.
KJ, do we have access to the order form for the signs?
Yeah, so the order, so the company is Quick Signs Inc. Quicksigns.net. So this is who I have always used. If you go to our marketing department, they will help you using this company. This is who we use. So if you walk around our office, you can see signs from this company. Even in front of my office, in my window, I have a large sign. So they're great. They're great signs. Highly recommend. Okay, let's get into leasing. So I have tried to make things as easy and understandable as I can for you. I always try. Now, we just had major form updates. So these are forms that are issued as of you guys know. CAR is updating the forms every single day, if not every single day, every other day. I have noticed every day there have been form changes, except yesterday. So, but every single day, like, so when you go on car.org, you will always be using the latest form on car.org in the cloud. When you add a new form in the cloud, it's the latest form. If you're using the desktop version of Zip Forms, it's on your desktop. So when you run it, it's going to the query to CAR online, and CAR online may say, hey, you're using outdated forms, and you're going to get a pop-up on your screen. There are new forms. Would you like to download the new forms? Yes or no? So you should always click yes. The only time I would not click yes is if I have to get something done in the next 1 minute and I can't wait the 2 minutes for it to download. Pretty rare, but it's possible. Like if you're doing a counter offer and like there's not much language going to change on a counter offer. So, you know, if you're in a real hurry to get it out, you know, then it's not, that could be a situation where you're not going to take it off. So, but yeah, always use the latest form. Our errors and emissions insurance, you know, also wants to make sure we're using the latest form. All right, I've got some slides for your recommendation. And they are great. All right, thank you, Jenny. Yes, I love that. All right, I'm going to.
You have to disclose on security.
We have to disclose security deposits. Yeah, let's talk about that. We're going to talk about that. So I'm going to share with everybody who's on Zoom the new lease listing agreement. We're going to pull it up right here and start talking. Okay. So the first thing that I put on here is our checklist. We're going to make some updates to our checklist. Again, forms are changing. New forms. Let's look at every single different type of property transaction that we do. There's going to be a checklist. So where do we get the checklist? You're going to get it from KWBH Virtual, the same place that you went here to join the Zoom call. There's a link up here called Helpful Links. And in Helpful Links, there's another clickable link here. It's called Approved Logos, Checklists, and Disclosures. This is where you're going to go to get our checklists and to get our Keller Williams disclosures. So here there's a box called Checklists.
That's only Keller Williams, not
This is Keller Williams. This is through kwbhvirtual.com.
And then check information and go to approve.
Go to approve checklists, disclosures. So here's our KW checklist virtual. Here's for leases. It says updated July 11th. This is gonna get updated again.
This is in additional to check.
This is our checklist. This is our checklist. So what is our checklist? As brokers, we are responsible for giving mandatory disclosures. There's laws about which forms have to be given to a tenant, to a landlord. What do we have to disclose? So these are our checklists for our office of what we are requiring, or what our requirements are and what our office requirements are. So this is our checklist. This is our checklist. This is how we know what forms to use. So let's go back to it. Here's the lease listing. So I put a note here, get signed at time of listing. So when you're talking to your landlord and you make that call and say, hi, would you like to advertise your property in the MLS? That's a listing appointment, right? They're gonna say, well, can you tell me about it? Say, sure, what time, when can I come? When can we meet? So make an appointment and you're going to go to this checklist and you're gonna print the items on the checklist that you need to get them to sign your listing. Okay, so what am I doing? I'm gonna get a lease listing agreement. The lease listing agreement, when you go into car.org, and you pull the form called lease listing agreement, it's gonna bundle all these forms. And then, that's the first one with the star. The next one with the star is an agency disclosure. I believe this used to be attached to the old, it could be that they've recently forgot to do this. It could be, and that it will appear here again, I don't know. Right now, you need to pull this lease listing agreement, you need to pull an agency disclosure. Now, a lease under 1 year does not require agency. However, we're a broker, our brokerage is asking for agency. We want to be very clear what an agent is, with all this new agency stuff. We have to be very clear who we're representing, what an agent is, blah, blah, blah. So we're gonna pull agency. This is a Keller Williams document. So you're gonna go back to not the checklists one, but now you're gonna click on the box that says disclosures. And then go to lease disclosures. These are our lease disclosures. So this one that we're talking about here is the disclosure that says, hey, we're not property managers. We don't manage property. So we're going to attach that one. Then there's another new form, brand new form, and it's called the multiple listing service addendum. So in our listing agreements, in our old listing agreements, there used to be a paragraph about this big talking about the MLS and the benefits of going into the MLS. They've now changed that into a 2-page form. So this form allows us to delay putting the property in the MLS. There's a rule that if you take a listing, it has to go on the MLS within 2 days. That's an MLS rule. Any listing that you guys take, you have to enter in within 2 days. Once you get an accepted offer, you have to change the status in the MLS within 2 days. Once you close escrow, you have to change the status within 2 days. Okay, that's an MLS rule. Now, in this addendum, which we're going to look at, you can delay that requirement. Okay. So that'll give you time to get your pictures taken, clean up the property, whatever you need to do before you have to put it in the MLS. And now there's another checkbox on this form that says to the seller, do you want the broker to have concessions do you want to advertise that the seller is willing to consider concessions? So what are concessions? The seller is willing to pay for anything for the buyer. That could be the commissions for the buyer's agent, or it could be anything or anything else, right? So concessions is the seller is willing to give money back to the buyer or to the tenant for whatever they want to use it for. Okay. So that's a concession down. That appears on this form. That's why we need it. Because if you don't have this form printed, you can't check the yes box when you enter your listing in the MLS. So when you're entering your listing in the MLS, there's going to be a checkbox that says, does the seller want to advertise that they'll entertain consent, yes or no. And the only way for you to be able to check yes is if it's checked in this box on the MLSA. Right. Now we have another brand new form called the Tenant Representation and Broker Compensation Agreement. Don't we love all these new forms?
Yeah.
Right, we're like killing all these trees.
That's true.
And this is nationwide. This is not just California.
So yeah, it's evil.
It's evil, yes. Tenant representation and broker compensation. All right, it used to be the old way of doing things was that the listing broker would sign with the seller a giant commission and it would be shared with the other broker. Commission sharing. That's the old way of doing things. New way is sellers pay commissions and buyers pay commissions.
Even on lease,
Brokers do not share commissions anymore. That's the old way. And I get it. I get it. Here's why I get it. If the seller is the one paying, doesn't the other agent also work for the seller? It's always been a gray area. If the seller is the one paying, right? How can I pay for someone to represent you? Like it's a weird concept. I think where this is all going to end up, who knows when, years from now, that they're going to say no more dual agents is what I think is going to end up.
Yep. It's on its way.
Yeah, it's on its way. It's inevitable, right? Because that's the way attorneys think. Attorneys think you can't represent both sides. It's an impossibility. And I always used to say that I'm very clear. I still say I'm very clear to my clients my duties to them. So I'm very clear to my seller that my duty to you as the seller or the landlord is always to get you the most money. That's my duty to you. My duty to the buyer is full disclosure. I can't hide anything from them. Fair and honest dealing with everybody. We have to be fair and honest. But to a seller, we have to get them the most money, and to a buyer, full disclosure. Can't hide anything. So I've always been very clear about that. But for an attorney, it's not enough. Right? Attorneys, when an attorney hears dual agency, they rub their hands together. They know they have a lawsuit case coming. So, and I will help you steer you clear of that. So when we talk about this stuff. All right, let's get into, we're gonna now print our lease listing. We're getting ready for our client. So we know what forms we need. Now we use this thing called Rent Spree to get rental applications, right? Because we're gonna have applications come in once we list the property. And when we're listing our property in the MLS, it's gonna ask us, do we want to use rent? Do we want to advertise that we're allowing rent spree? Yes. So if an agent calls me and says, how should we handle the application? I will say to the agent, go on the MLS, pull up my listing, and there's going to be a rent spree button on my property for you to click on and put your client's emails there. So that will happen. Okay, I can show you how that happens. But that's what I'll tell the agent, pull up my listing in the MLS. There should see a rent spree icon to apply for. The client will pay $39.99. And that's it.
Now, when they use that, the seller doesn't see, so the rent spree holds like personal information does not get passed on to the seller.
So rent spree is an independent third-party company that pulls credit because we need to pull credit on people.
But the seller does, or the owner doesn't see like certain details.
The owner will see everything.
Okay.
But we have to forward it to the owner.
Okay.
We have to forward it to the owner. So basically the agent is sending a link to the tenant to fill out the application. The tenant is going to receive an email from Rent Spree saying, click here to apply. So the tenant will click here to apply. It'll take them to Rent Spree. They'll create a Rent Spree account. They will fill out the application, put in their credit card for $39.99, and then complete. Done. We will be notified. You have an application, and then we're going to go to Rent Spree and we'll download the application. When we download it, it'll have the application, the credit report. It'll have the eviction check. It'll check to see if they've ever been evicted before, and it'll also have criminal background. Yes.
Rent-free also has a phone number and they are open for a brief time on Saturdays.
Okay, yeah, I guess you can call them and talk to them. Now, there is
Yeah.
another option here for an additional $10. Where you can have them also do an income verification check. So I usually don't do that, but you can. It's up to your landlord so we agents do not approve tenants. We don't approve tenants. And I'm telling you, just every time I have a lease, the landlord says to me, JJ, what do you think? Would you go with the tenant? Would you get this tenant? Like, what would you do if you were in my situation? Would you pick this tenant? They're trying to get me to say yes. I would take this tenant. I never fall for that trap. I don't do it.
Even if they have excellent credit.
I don't approve tenants. That's not my job. If I approve the tenant, and then there's a problem, they're gonna say, JJ, why did you tell me to approve this tenant? Lawsuit.
So what do you say to them? If everything looks good, do you think I should approve this tenant? I said,
Look, from what we're looking at, it looks like it's a good tenant. Like,
It's kind of like the same thing with schools. You're like, I heard there's good schools in the area.
right? They're showing us good credit.
Yeah.
They're showing us that they have the income. Like, I don't know about their character. Like, you can try going on their Facebook, you can see who they, like, I don't know about their character. Like, it's really important to me someone's character. Are they gonna move in and not pay rent? Or are they gonna move in, even if they have horrible credit, but they can afford to pay the rent? I just want to make sure they're gonna pay the rent, take care of the property, pay the rent.
yeah,
So to me, someone's character about paying is important. One way of determining that is credit. Another way of determining that might be, yes, they have horrible credit, they don't make their credit card payments on time, but they've never been late on their past rent. Like, that's something that they hold sacred. Like, okay, I'm open to looking at that. I don't have a closed mind. Now, there are some landlords that are so strict. They will not approve a tenant unless they are diamond, right? Perfect, everything. And it's very frustrating for me as an agent when I keep bringing what I think are really good tenants and I'm working hard at the least, not for a lot of money. And my landlord says, no. And I'm dying. I'm like, what the heck is wrong with you? These are great people. You know what? Those landlords have been involved in a bad situation. And they've had a bad tenant before and they don't want to see themselves be in that situation again. They would rather have a vacant unit not having income than have a bad tenant. Once you have a bad tenant, that's how you feel. So,
PTSD.
yeah, exactly. All right, so let's get into it. Here is the lease listing agreement. So, here's the disclosure, the MLSA, and our KW disclosure. Yes, so that's all there. But definitely go by the checklist. But this is what we want. All right. Okay, as we're filling it out, so we're gonna put today's date, we're gonna put the name of the landlord, and Keller Williams Beverly Hills is us. There's gonna be a start date and an end date. Always have your start date today. Whatever day you're meeting with your client, that's the day the listing should start. If you post date a listing, anything can happen before that day, because the listing didn't start yet. So let's say I go and I sign a listing, and then someone knocks on the landlord's door and says, can I rent your property? Right? Or somebody call on the sign that the landlord has in front of the property. If while I'm starting to get my photographer in, my handyman to fix some stuff. So all of a sudden the landlord calls, so I rented it. I don't need you anymore. Thank you. Nice try, right? So if you start this today, right now there's an MLS rule that says you have to put the property in the MLS within 2 days. Okay, so we need to delay that. We're gonna do that on a form later on. So just remember that. So, but have this start today. Okay, I used to ask for 90 days. You might want to ask for more than that, 120 days, 180 days, okay? I don't think you're gonna get too much pushback. I mean, just tell the landlord, look, we're obviously, I'm gonna be doing all this stuff to get your place rented. I'm investing time and money. I just want to make sure if you keep denying tenants, I want to make sure that I'm not wasting my time, right? So I need a little time to find a good tenant. You'll put the address in. Okay, here we go. Rent. How much are we asking? So I'm bringing comps with me of what I think that we can get for rent. And then we'll decide on a price that we're going to start our advertising at. The security deposits. So we had a law recently changed July 1st, 2024, saying landlords can only collect 1 month security deposit. That's the new law, 1 month. There is no more 3 month furnished. It used to be that a landlord could collect 2 months unfurnished, 3 months furnished.
But
There is no more 3 months.
if the tenant says, I give you 2 months security, 3 months security, I mean,
No, can't
that's
take
a
it.
red flag. I
You
mean,
can't take it. You cannot take it.
yeah,
So now, a landlord is able to collect 2 months rent if they are exempt. So what is an exempt landlord? So there's a form called SDDA, the Security Deposit Disclosure Addendum, that I've included later on just to show you what is an exempt, but I'll tell you real quick, what is an exempt landlord? A landlord who owns no more than 2 income properties. They can have 2 income properties, which don't have more than 4 combined total rental units. So if a landlord has a house and a triplex as income properties, or 2 duplexes, or 1 fourplex, that's totally
now
fine.
if the house, I'm sorry, if the
If they have a
house.
house and a triplex,
And the, no, and the
House.
ADU,
good question.
I mean, that's.
ADU, good question.
Could you rent it 1 tenant or 2?
That's a good question. If the ADU is considered a rental, I would say if it's registered as an income property,
Right.
then that's counted as a rental property.
Rent-
If they're renting the house and the ADU as 2 separate registries. Because you have to register your rental units with LA Housing.
Yes,
Right.
yes, that's it.
So if they're registered, yeah, that would probably be considered too. I don't know for sure,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yes, it's a good point.
I think that's a good.
So that makes an exempt landlord. Now, they also have to have their name on the property. It can't be an entity. Any property that's in an entity, not a trust, I'm talking, not trust. Talking about a LLC corporation. If they own the property as an LLC or corporation, they can only get 1 month's rent. That's it. 1 month's rent as security deposit.
How about a trust?
Trust is okay if it's a revocable or irrevocable trust. All right, type of tenancy. Make sure that you check all these boxes when you're selecting type of tenancy, because that's how you're gonna get paid. If you don't check one of these boxes, you're not gonna get paid. If that's the kind of lease that you do. So I put here month to month, 1 year, or less than or greater than 1 year. I got all my bases covered, right? So I want to make sure I'm getting paid. So if someone signs a month to month, that means they're signing a 30-day. Okay, fine. 1 year, okay, 12 months. What is different than month to month or 1 year? Something less than 1 year or more than 1 year. So I put less than or greater than 1 year. So I have everything covered. I'm getting paid. All right. Items included in lease rental. Here's where you would put the refrigerator, washer, dryer, microwave, dishwasher, range, whatever's in there. Now, there's a spot here. It says personal property that will not be maintained or replaced by the residential property owner. Why would you put something in there? Let's say the residential property owner has a microwave that's 10 years old, and they say they'll leave the microwave there, but if it breaks, they're not replacing it. Then you would put here microwave. What if there's a really old washer and dryer and the landlord says, I'll leave the washer and dryer, but if anything happens to it, I'm not replacing it. You have to have it here in the lease. If you don't put here that what's not going to be maintained or replaced, the landlord has to fix or replace whatever is working with the unit when it's given to the tenant.
So refrigerator washer is not gonna be repaired.
If I give you this lease and I don't have anything here, if the refrigerator breaks, I have to fix it. If
You have to fix it.
I have to, if it's not in E, if it's not in 2E, I have to fix it.
Right.
Because I can't take away an amenity from a tenant.
Yeah.
If I have provided all these amenities in my lease for a tenant, I can't take anything away. So if something breaks, I have to fix it.
Right.
What would you usually see?
Usually it's gonna be an old appliance, like it might be a refrigerator in the garage
Yep,
that is that's there if the tenant wants it, but the landlord's not gonna replace the refrigerator in the garage if something happens to it. Right? So that would be something in there. All right, additional terms. This security deposit and disclosure addendum is attached to this for information only. It's not needed for the listing agreement. Yes. So you don't need the form SDDA, Security Deposit Disclosure. You don't need that form with your lease listing. You will need it later in your lease if you are gonna get more than 2 months, if you're gonna get 2 months, right? Because we have to disclose to the tenant that the landlord is exempt. And they are asking for 2 months of security deposit.
For 2 months security if you own.
If you're exempt, you can't own more than 2 income properties.
Right.
And you can't have more than 4 combined income units,
Oh,
4 units.
so you can get 2 months security.
You can get 2 months security. If you have a fourplex, you can get 2 months security, no problem, as long as you don't own anything else. Or income.
Does that mean the state of California?
State of California, yeah, I only talk about state of California. The place I'm licensed, yeah, only percent. All right, compensation. All this. All this talk about compensation. This is why we are in this business, is for compensation. So let's just be very clear about compensation. The amount of commissions is not fixed by law. They are set by each broker individually and may be negotiable. Now, that's an interesting sentence. They are set by each broker individually. Legally, our broker can say, we only take 3% listings. Our broker can actually do that legally. That's because that's a business decision. Right? That's not price fixing. It could be considered price fixing if every broker did that, I guess. Right? But that hasn't been taken away from us yet. So if we had an office policy as a business decision, that we can't afford to do less because of our errors and omissions insurance, our liability. Our owners have gotten together and said, you know what, this office can't afford to take anything less than that. Like we are still allowed to have a broker. Now, the landlord doesn't have to agree. They can go to another broker. Right? That's what they can do. So we could have an office policy. We don't have an office policy. We are an office that says, let's make business. Let's do it.
So if you own a 6-unit property, you can ask only
If you have a 6-unit, once you have a 6-unit property,
Is the 1 month.
you can't get 2 months security on anything.
one building, right?
That's it.
Okay.
Once you have more than 4 units, you can never get 2 months security.
Right.
All right. So I just put in here now. The numbers that I put in here are pre-printed. This is for educational purposes only. I'm just saying that because if I was telling you pre-print, and that could be considered collusion, right? Price fixing. I'm doing this for educational purposes. So I should have a little asterisk here.
So this is all allegedly.
Well, I'm just like, I don't want you to put it blank. If you leave it blank and don't fill anything in, you're gonna be working for free. So I don't want you to do that. This is how I fill out my leases. So now we are only gonna be asking for the listing side then. So compensation to broker. The residential property owner agrees to pay to broker as compensation for services. Does not include compensation, if any, to a broker who's representing a tenant. This is only for the listing broker. All right, so 3% of the total rent payments due under the term specified in paragraph 2C. So we need to look up at 2C, and this is why I've checked all these boxes. Because this is saying how much we're gonna get, and it's based upon how we filled out 2C. Okay, that's why I checked all the different things. All right, so the term shall be the term of the rental agreement. If rental agreement is signed and tenant takes possession or is prevented from doing so by the residential property owner. Okay, let's keep going. The RPO, residential property owner, agrees to pay the broker an additional compensation of 3% if a fixed term lease is extended or renewed for an additional fixed term. So let's say it's month 11 and your landlord is saying, can you contact my tenant, please, and see if they want to extend? And I'm going to contact the tenant and say, you guys want to sign another year. And then I'm going to get paid 3% on it.
Why would they do that though? If they're month to month, you can't kick them out. What's their?
Because the landlord may want stability, knowing that they don't have a tenant that's going to move out.
Do they offer them incentive?
So usually property managers will ask a tenant to re-sign an entire year lease. Usually, they don't want month-to-month tenants. So a month-to-month tenant can give 30-day notice. What do you do if you have a building where everyone gives 30-day notice at the same time?
Oh, yeah.
And do they
That
have
could
to
be-
contact you or do they just can omit you out of the situation and go directly to the tenant?
So the landlord can always omit us, but they're gonna owe us. Because we have a listing agreement. They can try to omit it.
So you have to yourself kind of keep a ledger of.
Yes,
the-
yes. So once I do my lease, I'm gonna put in my Google Calendar. 11 months from now, contact landlord to ask, contact landlord about lease renewal, possible lease renewal. So I'll schedule that. It'll appear on my calendar. So I'm gonna come in my office one day and it's gonna say, contact the landlord for this property to see if the tenant's renewing the lease. So then I'm gonna contact my landlord and say, would you like me to contact the tenant to see if they want to sign another year? And the landlord might say to me, oh, I've already contacted them. Thank you. I don't need you anymore.
What do you say?
Great. Here's the address for my check.
Ah,
Right, well, look, this is up to you. I mean, technically, yeah,
I like that way.
great. Great.
It's just straight to the
Amazing.
point, like, thank you.
I mean, most of the time, your landlord is going to be asking your help with everything. Most of the time, they are going to be asking you for help. And that's why we have the form that we're not property managers.
So JJ, maybe you'll get to this. If we represent a tenant, is there another form or does that come later in?
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. Okay, great. Have it here. Okay,
JJ,
yes,
Stephanie, yeah,
Hi,
I have a question. If I want to terminate the lease, like in a month of 10 months, so do I need to give like 60 days notice or 30 days notice? I know
Are you
like over a year, I want to terminate your
terminating-
lease. Mhm.
so if
I'm
you
the owner.
want, okay, so I will say to you, a lease is the most powerful contract in real estate. It is the most powerful contract in real estate. There is no more powerful contract. And the reason I'm saying that is because when a property goes to foreclosure on the courthouse steps and it goes to the highest bidder, if there's a tenant in the property that has a valid lease, the tenant stays until the end of the lease. Foreclosure doesn't break a lease. Like
Okay.
leases are just that powerful. So
Okay.
if you want to end a lease prior to
Mhm.
the end date of the lease.
No. I want to terminate.
no,
They
okay,
signed
I
a
get
year
it.
lease.
I get it. So if you want to terminate a lease prior to the expiration of the lease, you have to have both parties agreeing to that. Okay, we're there. Okay, now, if we have a 1-year lease and the landlord accepts a check for month 13. They didn't renew, but the landlord accepted the check for month 13. We have now created a month-to-month tenancy.
Okay.
And in a month-to-month tenancy, the tenant can give 30-day notice and the landlord can give 60-day notice.
Got it. That's after a year. But if
After
in
1
months,
year and it's month-to-month. So if the tenant gives 30-day notice on the 15th,
mhm,
they can move out on the 15th of the next month. It doesn't have to be the end of the month.
got it.
And the
But
same with the landlords, 60-day notice.
But for month 10, for the owner, they will ask the tenants, oh, whether you want to stay or not. They
Yes.
normally, so at that time, they may need to renew a new lease at that time,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then but still within a year, the owner may just need to give the tenants 1 month's notice to say, we are not renewing the lease. Can
Well,
can owner say that?
The landlord can give a 30-day notice to a tenant, 30-day notice if the
Within a
tenant,
year?
if the tenant's been there less than a year. So if the landlord signs a 6-month lease and then collects a check for month 7
Mhm.
and then another check for month 8, they can give a 30-day notice.
Okay,
Once
but
the-
if they
Once the tenant's been there 1 year, it has to be 60-day notice from the landlord.
But if they sign a 1-year lease, but now it's only 10 months
Okay.
or 11 months. Right
Okay.
now it's the 11 months. How many days notice I need to give to the tenants?
None. The lease is ending at the end of month 12.
Yes,
There's
and
no
now it's,
notice, no notice needs to be given to anybody.
no, I don't want to lease it to them anymore after a year lease end.
That's it. That's they're,
It's neat though.
I would contact the tenant and say, you don't need to give any, I mean, you don't need to give notice. The lease ends when the lease ends. So,
Okay,
Can't kick them
but
out.
I would just, you know, I would
I would-
call the tenant and say, you know, I'm scheduling my painters. Just let them know that you're not
Uh-huh.
intending to renew. So there is a form, notice of non-renewal. I think there is a form for that. It's not required. But, you know,
okay,
if
oh.
you-
So
there is a form.
So basically, you can kick your tenants out after the lease ends. You can keep
The
your
lease
tenants
is over.
out.
Now, that is saying that there's no rent control. Now,
Oh.
California has something called rent control. There might be city, county, state laws about kicking people out. So if the property is in rent control, and you have a 1-year lease,
Mhm.
and the tenant wants to give you month 13's payment, the landlord has to accept it.
That's why would they sign an extension?
Because there is a law that the tenant has to sign an extension. The tenant has to sign a new lease.
So the payment of rent creates the new.
It doesn't, if it's a rent control property and the tenant wants to give month 13th payment to the landlord has to accept.
In month 11, the owner already decided not to lease to the tenants anymore in rent control area.
In rent control, when you take a tenant,
Uh-huh.
there is no such thing as a termination period.
Oh.
They can stay whatever.
No matter what is on your lease, no matter what clause you write into the lease, even if you write in the lease that the tenant agrees that they will move out on a certain day, it doesn't matter. You can't change the law. The law is rent control. There is no verbiage that I'm aware of that you can write into a lease that will eliminate rent control. You can't change the law.
Is Los Angeles rent control?
So Los Angeles has rent control for properties built before 1978, and it could be even more recent than that.
But not single family.
They're trying to change the laws that every property is rent control.
Oh, yeah.
They're trying to do this. Right now, if you have a house
Mhm.
in Los Angeles and you build an ADU
Mhm.
and you as the owner move into the ADU and rent the
Mhm.
house becomes rent control. So don't
What?
say, yes.
Why?
Ask the city. I
Ask
have
the
no idea.
governor. Ask
Ask
No
the
matter-
governor.
ask the governor, he will tell you. Yeah.
No matter when the house was built?
So, okay, when it comes to questions like what if, and when it comes to rent control, I'm going to direct my landlord to the house, to housing and wherever they are. So I'm gonna go LA housing,
Okay.
right? LA housing. Here we go. City of Los Angeles Housing Department. I'm going to direct my landlord to this site. If I am, so here's the phone number, 866-557-7368.
Mhm.
This is who you're gonna call. You're gonna give them the address of the property. And you're gonna describe to them the exact scenario of your question, and they will give you an answer.
Okay. You can
I
never,
will- I-
never, you
and-
never kick out your tenants. That's their answer.
And by the way, don't take anything I say as gospel. Okay? You have to call the city. These laws that I'm saying to you are what I know from everything I've learned up until
Yeah.
today without calling the city again. If I, even with what I know, if a landlord calls me today to ask me a question, I will still call the city and ask right today. I called yesterday, LA Housing, I called yesterday. So it doesn't matter what I know. It really doesn't matter what I know, what you know, what anyone knows. I'm gonna call the city with the address, describe the situation of what I'm asking, and then the city's gonna tell me. All right?
It's not,
Now, that's putting a lot of faith in the person that I'm talking to on the other end of the line. I might call twice and get different answers, like, I don't know, but, you know, I'm just saying, like, I always call the city, I give them the address and ask them the scenario.
Is there no page where it identifies the certain rules?
There are, but, you know, you have to make sense out of it and read it and understand legalese, right? I'm not an attorney.
Yeah.
I'm an attorney, in fact, but I'm not a lawyer. We're all attorneys.
What is the logic behind when you move to an ADU and leave your single family for rental? What is the logic behind it being rental?
Ask the
Ask the government.
city council who approved that. I wasn't asked if that's okay. I don't know. I don't know how that was approved.
LHA is the same as
LA housing,
rent stabilization. What's the
rent stabilization. So
it different?
LA housing and rent stabilization. And so the rent stabilization is an ordinance.
Oh,
There's a rent stabilization ordinance. So Santa
Oh.
Monica has their own, West Hollywood has their
You
own,
have, to-
Beverly Hills has their own.
but LA housing has got the rule for everybody.
LA housing is for City of Los Angeles,
Oh, Los Angeles.
City of Los Angeles.
Oh, okay, thanks for.
But if I'm renting a property in Palos Verdes, I'm gonna call Palos Verdes. Right? If I'm renting a property in Glendale, I'm gonna call, I got it. And then I'm
Okay.
calling, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna Google RSO for rent stabilization ordinance, RSO Glendale. Or Glendale Housing Department, right? So, all right, let's keep going. So
Are there any city near, sorry, I'm so sorry, but
That's okay.
are there any city near that doesn't have a rent control?
it used to be that Inglewood didn't. I knew the people who were living there.
Inglewood, Culver City.
I don't know the current laws. I know that people were going to Long Beach because they weren't. That might have changed. So I don't know. I'm not keeping current.
No, they.
I'm only up to date when I have a client who's specifically looking, and then I'm calling the city, and then that could change the next day. So these laws are constantly changing. If it was up to California, every single property in California would be rent control. There's something right now they're talking about, this Prop 30, which would limit, which I think would make everything rent control. And then if someone moves out, you can't charge market rent anymore. Based upon the last tenant's rent, that's the highest rent you can get on the next tenant.
This is California.
Yes, I know. This is California.
Communism.
How much is it exactly?
Look, I mean, let's talk about, you know, there's two sides to everything. We have an affordability problem, and we can't have mass displacement of people either. It's a problem. Like, there's no magic solution to this problem, and people are trying to figure it out. They can't.
They tax you 1,000. You're
It's a
living.
problem. Like, everything is a discussion. There's no easy solution.
It's not landlord's problem. Landlord owns the property.
So I would say, if you're looking for a good retirement solution, find a place that has rent control that you like to live in.
Yeah.
And you're locking your cost of living at that number basically forever. So, right?
We just sign one.
So if you own a rent control property and you're leasing to a young couple or not, maybe a couple of young person, I don't know. You need to, yeah, they could literally live there. Like,
Even if you sell the house.
be
they
very
cannot move.
careful also when you're creating the lease. If they're bringing in their 6-year-old and their 6-year-old is a tenant named on the lease,
On the list, they're gonna
that
stay
person
for
could be there 90 years
200 years.
because they're named on.
That's how they do it in New York. Randy gave me this
You
apartment.
gotta know what you're signing as a landlord.
Hallelujah.
Gotta be careful. All right,
Hallelujah.
all right, let's keep going. So for
Pass it along.
rental,
Pass it down.
for month-to-month rental, 50% of 1 month. Okay, that might sound like a ridiculous amount of money. But usually a landlord is going to want a 1-year lease. And they're not gonna push back on this. If they say to you, why are you asking for so much, 50% of 1 month? And you're gonna say, well, sometimes I'm gonna get a call from an insurance company where they need to relocate someone for 2 or 3 months. Because they had a flood in their property or something, they're doing repairs. And the insurance company is willing to pay maybe double or even more of what we're asking. In that situation, that's why I'm asking for that, because that 50% of the month is gonna cover, you know, pretty much what I would have gotten on the 1-year lease.
Let me ask you,
I still have to do the same work. Yeah,
if an insurance company does that, right?
Yeah.
What happens if the tenant's like, I'm not leaving? How does the
so
insurance?
the tenant is the one signing the lease. So the tenant is on the hook for the money. They're getting reimbursed by their insurance company.
So it's technically insurance fraud if they decided not to.
No, it's a tenant not paying the Well, if they decide they want
So
to,
say the insurance company's like, hey, we're gonna move this tenant in, and the tenant's like,
your landlord should be very happy because the tenant just signed a lease way more. For way more money than would be.
does that situation happen where the tenant's like, you know what, I kind of like it here, insurance company, you're gonna.
No, I don't think that happens, but what does happen is, the repairs don't get done on time. So the tenant needs to extend to 1 month or 2 months. That's what usually happens. But they want to move back into their house that was just. It's.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get going. So there is a continuation right on here. This continuation, make sure you have a number in here. And what that continuation number is for is during your listing period that you put here, you're bringing tenants in, you're doing showings, people are coming in. At the end, before the end of your listing period, if you did not lease the property, or you have a landlord that just refused to lease to everyone that you showed it to, you're gonna give the landlord a list of all the people that came during your listing period. And then you have 180 days that you have protection. If the landlord decides to lease to any of those people that you brought there during your listing period, you're gonna get paid. Okay, so that's your continuation period. Just make sure you have a number in there. All right,
JJ,
so, yes.
above you said like 3% commission, right? 3%.
Yes.
Right
Well,
now we are
that's
only
negotiable.
fixed term.
That's negotiable. Now, this is for the whole term, so
Okay,
3% of the total rent. So
okay.
if I
That
sign
right
a,
now we are only discussed from the listing side. We are not going to get a 5%.
we are only talking about the listing side right now. So this says RPO agrees to pay the broker as compensation for services. Does not include compensation to a broker representing the tenant. We're only talking about the listing side. Okay.
Got it, thank you.
Okay, collection of compensation. Here's a good one. I love this one. Now, it says here that the broker may retain compensation due from any move-in payments made by tenant to broker. Broker is authorized to instruct tenant to deduct the amount of broker compensation from any move-in payment and make a separate payment to broker for such amount. This is a very, 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 very important paragraph. It's so important that I think I restate it here where it says tenant payment. So this is the tenant. We'll go back up here in a second, but I want to show you the tenant payments area here. The following are due and payable to the residential property owner. First month's rent is due at execution, is when everyone signs the lease. The first month's rent. Security deposit is also due at execution. This is saying here, following are due and payable to the residential property owner. So first month's rent and security, yes, those are due to the residential property owner, 100%. Okay. Other, now this is where I type in here, broker compensation is going to be deducted from that total amount due to the RPO, and it's payable to the broker at execution. So that's very simple, right? The RPO is due their first month in security. However, the broker is going to deduct from that amount of whatever is due to the broker. Okay, this is how brokers get paid, and it's clearly in this paragraph right here. Broker may retain compensation due from any move-in payments made. Broker is authorized to instruct the tenant to deduct that amount from the broker compensation from any move-in payment and make a separate payment to broker. So that's how that works. So I know that I've done this before. Let me find it real quick. And I have how. I know that I have created a doc. Well, let's just see the pops up here in notes. Should be a document here. How we get paid on a lease. All right. Your lease. I'm gonna create a document for us. Okay, this is how we get paid on. So let's say we have $10,000. And we have $10,000. So the total due to the landlord is $20,000. Right, that makes sense. Sorry that it's so small writing. So total due is 20,000 to landlord. Fine. Now, we're getting 3% on our listing side. So that means that we're gonna go $10,000 times 12 months is 120,000. And 3% of 120,000 times 0.03
It's like $4,000.
Let's look for $3,600, right? 3,600. That's how much we're gonna make. If we only represent one side, 3,600. So what's gonna happen is I'm going to instruct the tenant to make 3,600 to LRA. And we're gonna do 10,000 minus 36, which is 64. And then we're gonna have 6,400 payable to the RPO, whatever the RPO's name is. That will total 10,000. So that is what, those are the instructions that I have been.
RPO means a
RPO, residential property owner.
owner home.
Yeah, landlord.
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 How about the broker who brings the tenant?
Okay, so then if there's another broker involved and they're getting 3%. If that happens, then there's gonna be 3,600 to Keller Williams. And there'll be 3,600 to buyer tenants broker. And then we're gonna deduct 3,600 from the RPO, which comes out to 7,200, it's 8,200, 9,200, so 2,800. 2,800 to the RPO.
When you add these two together, 7,200.
If you add all these three, it's 10,000. This is how we get paid.
Who makes these checks payable to?
The tenant makes these checks.
The tenant writes one check to Keller Williams, one check to their own broker, and one check to the,
Okay, so remember our lease disclosures? Remember here, we have some different documents. So we're not talking about the lease that I'm gonna show you. So when it's time to create the actual lease, we're going to add this lease money disposition. Okay, and this is a Keller Williams form. Other offices have one. Compass has one. Nelson Shelton has one. Sotheby's has one. Coldwell Banker. Everyone has this same type of document. And it basically says, this is the property address. This is the security deposit. This is the first month's rent, total move-in. Boom.
So in this case, tenant get $2,800 on it.
Yeah, the landlord gets 2,800 only.
Plus the security, but that's
That's how the rent got paid. That's how the commissions got paid. So security deposit, first month's rent, total move-in. So 10,000, 10,000, 20,000.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And then it says, leasee the tenant to submit separate checks as follows. Commission for listing office, 3,600 payable to Keller Williams, 3,600 payable to the other broker. Balance due to the lessor, to the landlord, 2,800, whatever it was.
Where did you get this form, JJ?
This form is from our drive. So you're gonna go to KWBH virtual.com, thank you, KWBHvirtual.com. And then you're gonna click on helpful links, right? You're gonna go to KWBH virtual, you'll click on helpful links,
Right.
and then you'll go to approved disclosure, approved logos, checklists, and disclosures.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're gonna go to disclosures and then lease disclosures. And it's the lease money disposition.
So checks, cashier, no personal
So
check.
it says all checks must be a money order from cashier's check. The reason for that is if you have a tenant moving in with personal checks and they bounce, you now have someone in the property and you can't get paid. Problem. We want
reaction.
cashier's check.
You can't take cash sometimes. Go
Cash? I'll take your cash.
go to the bank or use that.
Apple Pay.
The problem with cash, the problem with accepting cash
Thank you.
is that you can get mugged.
Yeah.
If you collect cash from me and you get robbed,
But
who's
it's
paying me?
right.
Right.
How about the tenants that can you through the window?
Oh, okay,
No.
good question.
Hi, JJ.
Yes.
Quick
Hold on,
question,
hold on.
Sharon here.
Yes.
This form, this last form, does both sides fill this out or just if
So
you're the,
so I'm gonna make sure that this, look, I have to protect me getting paid, right? So I'm going to have a, if I am the listing agent, I'm instructing the tenant to make the checks like this. If I am the tenant's agent, I'm sending this form to the listing agent and saying, do you have a similar form to this that you're using? Because I want to make sure I'm getting paid. If we did not subtract broker compensation now, good luck getting paid.
Yeah.
Our broker does not have a collections department. Can you imagine if we didn't get paid like this? The landlord would say the check's in the mail, the check's in the mail, the check's in the mail. I don't want to give 20,000 to the landlord and wait for my commission check.
so do we send this blank to the listing agent?
No, we fill it
Or
out.
just
We fill it out.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
now, if
However
you're
you decide.
if you're representing the tenant and you're sending this to the listing agent, you need to ask the listing agent what their commission is. Because it might not be the same as your commission.
I got you.
So
One more question, sorry, I joined
Okay.
a little late. What if the landlord is asking for 2 months deposit? I'm
That's
sure
fine.
you.
That's fine. So this will say security deposit 10, first month's 20, total 30.
No, I mean, like, is that allowed? Because I thought
It's
that.
allowed, a landlord who is exempt. A landlord who is exempt is allowed to have 2 months security. So there's no more 3 months security, that's gone.
Okay,
And a landlord who owns no more than 2 rental properties, consisting of no more than 4 total rental units.
got you.
And it has to be in their name or in a trust that they own.
I got it.
If it's an LLC or corporation, they can only get 1 month's rent, 1 month security.
Is it on us to check this or?
We're gonna know when we go into public records, we'll see how the title is held. If title's held in an LLC, they're only entitled to 1 month's rent. If it's an apartment building, 1 month's rent. Right? If it's an apartment building. If it's a condo, then you need to ask your landlord if they have another income property.
So if it's single family, they can ask for 2 months if they don't own more than 2 properties.
If they only own 2 properties in California, they only own 2 properties in California, they can, and one of the property, as long as they don't have more than 4 units combined, then
Gotcha.
they're exempt.
Okay, thank you.
If furnished doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, they can, if you're renting, if you have a 6-unit property and you're leasing a furnished unit, you can only get 1 month security deposit. All right. Now, when I say 1 month security deposit, I'm talking about total combined security deposit. So that means pet deposit, key deposit, right?
For the first.
Cleaning deposit, all deposits combined can't exceed 1 month.
If I insist to collect 2 months security deposit and tenants are okay, the tenant didn't know about this law.
Okay.
And they are okay, they paid. What happened?
Okay.
What's the situation then?
The money back.
If the tenant finds out that you were not entitled
Only
to it.
allowed? Mhm.
If the tenant finds out that you were not allowed to it, then they're gonna ask you for it back. And then you'd have to give it back.
So don't be shady.
I mean, that's the worst that can happen. That's the worst that can happen. I mean,
Okay.
you'll say, I didn't know. And then they'll say, I want my money back, and you'll say, here it is.
Excuse me.
Because
Okay.
if they take you to court, you're gonna lose, right? So
Okay.
you'll have to give it back. All right, so let's look at this other part. Compensation and subsequent sale to tenants. This is how you protect yourself if your tenant buys the property. That could happen. Doesn't happen that often, but sometimes it happens. So make sure that you put in an amount there for you to get paid if your tenant buys the property. All right, now we're gonna talk about something called unrepresented. Unrepresented. If you have someone that calls you on your lease and they do not have an agent, then you can do everything to put the lease together. But you can't represent them. Now, this is something we're gonna talk about called broker involvement. This is a very slippery slope, because once you do one of the characteristics of broker involvement, you will be representing them. If you, I guess this is, it's, so we had an attorney that was here yesterday from, not from CAR, from a law firm, but she's on the contract committee for CAR. So I was asking her a lot of questions yesterday. So when we show a property, right? When we show a regular property, we have a new showing form. It's called the property showing form. And it's good for 3 properties. And that form you're gonna fill in the commission amount that the buyer is agreeing to pay you. And that's good for up to 3 properties, whatever you're showing them that day. Okay, no problem. That is a non-exclusive contract. And it says on there, you are entitled to compensation if there's broker involvement. So what is broker involvement? Taking them to the property, showing them the property, either even in person or virtually, writing their offer, or analyzing the property, doing comps for them. If you do any of those things, there was broker involvement. And technically, there's a fiduciary obligation for you to them, right? Now, unrepresented means that you did not have any of those things that considered broker involvement. Okay, yes.
Do you have to do all 3 or with one? Just
Any of them. Any of them are considered broker involvement.
Okay.
So, right, so you're protected. If you take out a buyer and show them a property and they signed your property showing form and you have the address there and you took them there, there's broker involvement. Now, I'm not talking about, so there's something else called procuring costs. That's different.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a dispute between you and another agent.
Yeah.
Right? We're only looking at us, and did we do something? Are we entitled to this commission from the buyer? This is not between broker and broker anymore. This is between broker and client. Has nothing to do with the other broker anymore. So the previous litmus test called whatever I just said,
Procuring
costs, that was between broker and broker. We're not doing that anymore. That's gone. All right. All right, now we're talking about the tenant is unrepresented. Now, you're gonna talk to your seller and your landlord and say, you know what, I want extra money now if someone comes in and you're unrepresented. Why? Because they're gonna be calling me to let them in to measure. And then they're gonna call me back and say, I need to see this, or I need to see that. I need to come back again. I need to bring my mom. I need to, right? All right, so you're gonna start doing all this extra work when they could have had another agent come in and open the property for them and do all that extra work. Now you're the one being asked to do all that extra work. You should be entitled to some extra compensation for them. Okay, so you're gonna ask, you'll ask for that. So the way that I'm filling this out is I'm getting 3% for representing the landlord. I'm gonna ask for another 3%. This doesn't have to be 3, it could be 1, 1.5, whatever you want. If someone comes unrepresented, and then for month to month, 50% of the amount specified in paragraph 3B2. Okay, so 3B2. Remember we said, what if you get a call from someone who has an insurance claim, they just need a short term. They want to sign 1 month with possible extensions. Okay, so we're just gonna get 50% of 1 month on that on the listing side. And then that's gonna be half. And then this is the way that this is 50% of that amount is gonna be a quarter. So it'll be an extra quarter. Right. If I lose you on the map, just fill it out later. All right. So I told you how I fill this out. Tenant payments, we're gonna deduct the broker compensation from what's payable to the RPO. So that's why I fill it out like that. Again, you don't need to do this. The paragraph is already here. Broker may retain compensation due from any movement payments made. Broker is authorized to instruct the tenant to deduct that amount. So I'm authorized to tell the tenant, make 3 checks. Right? Make my commission check, make the other broker commission check. Right. No problem. All right. The residential property owner needs to give me authorization to put a sign on the property if I'm gonna put a sign. They also need to give me authorization to put a lockbox on. So if I'm going to put a lockbox on the property, it's gonna probably be a Supra lockbox. That is an electronic lockbox that keeps records of who opens it. So I'll know who has opened my lockbox. It used to be that there was a Supra key that I could open. And I could also give to maybe someone on my team to go and open a house for someone. That's no longer, it's now on your phone. So it's an app on your phone. I'm not giving my phone to someone, right? So this is how they control this. So now I go to the lockbox and I have to open it from my phone. So that's a good thing. Usually on a lease, if it's vacant, I'll probably put that on a Supra lockbox and an agent can go show it. They can open the Supra lockbox, they can go show the vacant unit. If it's not vacant or it's a really high-end property, or I'm just concerned, I want to be there for all showings, then that's it. I'm not gonna put a lockbox. I'll just be there for all showings. No.
The key is inside the lock.
You put the key in the lockbox. So you have a lockbox on a property, there's keys are inside, the agent will come up to the lockbox, they'll push it to activate it. They'll open it, take the key out, after they're showing, put it back, right? And if someone calls me and says, JJ, there's no key in your lockbox, I know who the last agent was that opened it.
Mm.
And then I'll call them and say, can you check your pocket? You got to put the key back. Okay, so let's keep going. Obviously, the landlord has to have insurance on the property while you're showing it. Okay, RPO disclosure. Now, this is something relatively new. It's been around about a year. The landlords did not have to give any disclosures before, except for water heater, smoke alarm, carbon monoxide. There were mold disclosure, but this is now a newer thing where they're asking the landlord to fill out and answer questions. So we'll look at that in a second. The RPO agrees to complete a rental property owner disclosure and rental property owner questionnaire, which shall be provided to the broker within 3 days of completing. Now, this contract says they have 3 days to do it. So when you send this document to your landlord through DocuSign, it's going to have everything marked up where they can click yes, no, answer questions, all in DocuSign. Sometimes you're going to have technically challenged clients where, let's say you're dealing with someone, they don't know computer from nothing. Like there are people that just, electronics doesn't agree with them. They don't know, they can't figure it out. You might want to just print everything and bring it to them for signature. Or, there is a way that you can remove all those items, because these are a lot of checkboxes. You can remove the items from the disclosures. That's okay, because they have 3 days to return it to you. That's okay. But you're gonna have to go there with them and fill it out with the help. Now, you guys should never be filling out a disclosure for your clients. Make sure your ink is not, it's not your hand. Because what might happen is there could be an issue where they said, oh, I told you to write that. How come you didn't disclose that? I told you. And now they're blaming you and it's in your writing and now you're liable. So, yeah.
So if you have a tenant in the house, and another tenant, you have to disclose it to the new tenant. You have to.
If you have a tenant in your property.
Yes, and
and
moved
then
out, you get
They
a new
moved out,
tenant.
a new tenant comes
You
in.
have new disclosure based on.
Yeah, it's a new
Because you
tenant.
haven't lived in that house. Of
Well,
what,
we have to look at the disclosure. We have to see what's on the disclosure. We can only answer, we're only responsible for disclosing.
whatever you can answer that you did in the house during the other tenant.
So
living
we
there.
are only responsible to disclose what we know.
What
If we don't know something, we can't possibly disclose.
Okay.
So we'll look at it. We'll answer what we can.
Right.
We'll answer what we can. Okay. So here's the agency. Look at this. If the listing is for a tenancy in excess of 1 year, then you have to have an agency disclosure. That's the law. Because we are a broker, our broker does want you to have an agency agreement. So I will always have an agency agreement with my clients personally. Especially now with all this talk about agency this and agency that, have an agency disclosure, just to have. I mean, we have to have agency conversations with our clients. So it's always been a broker policy at every broker I've been with that there's an agency disclosure, even though it's not required for leases under a year. But now we're going into a listing contract with our clients. So we definitely want an agency. All right. when will your agency relationship end with your landlord? So there's a bunch of checkboxes here. I'll say that my agency ends when the tenant moves in, when I give the tenant the keys, and I walk through the property with the tenant. So I'm basically meeting the tenant at the property, handing them the keys, walking through there with them. That's it, I'm done. Now, there's another checkbox here, completion of move-in inspection. So I'm not gonna probably stick around for that one. I'm going to give the tenant the move-in inspection, and I'm gonna say when it's due back to the landlord. So I think the default is 3 days. I might even give them 5 or 7. And just say, go through this and return it to us. Now, one thing I do as a listing agent before a tenant moves in is I take my phone and I put it on video before the tenant moves in, and I'll go through the property and I will say, this is JJ Wallack, Keller Williams, Beverly Hills. Today is Wednesday, August 28th at 12:30 p.m. and I'm at the property of such and such, and we're about to start a lease with so and so. And here's my property condition video. And I will walk through the property and I will record the condition of the floors, the walls, the corners of everything, the windows. I'll be looking for cracks in windows. I'm looking at the shades, pulling them up, putting them down. The screens, do they have holes in them? I'm opening all the cabinets. I'm looking at stains. I'm looking at handles on the cabinets. It's very easy to focus on where the problems are, but you also need to focus on where there are no problems. I'm looking at light fixtures. I'm going outside the house. I'm looking at all of the greenery. I'm looking literally everything. So I'm usually going to take about 45 minutes of video in a property. And what happens is the tenant moves out and the landlord wants to deduct this and this and this and this. And I'm all about being fair. So if a landlord wants to deduct, I'm saying no problem. Let's look at the video and make sure that it wasn't there when they moved in. A lot of times the landlord didn't know that there was something broken and it was broken when they moved in. It's not fair to ask the tenant to pay for something they didn't break. That's not fair.
Do you send that video to the landlord if you do it? Have it a record?
I usually do share it. I'll put it in my Google Drive and I'll share the link with them. They usually never even look at it.
So you just
But at
keep
least you've
it.
got
At
that,
least I have it.
but at least you've, knowledge you've sent it to them, you should have taken a look at it.
Yes, I have it. It's there. It's never going away. So there is a record of what the condition was before they moved in. You have a question?
Oh, because you answered it.
Okay, good. Very good. I love when that happens.
Yeah.
All right, additional terms. Look, there's a checkbox here for agency. Check it. Add the agency disclosure. If you're adding a key safe, a lockbox, check that one. There's 2 places on the lockbox addendum. One of them is for the landlord to sign. The other part of this is for the tenant to sign. What if you have a tenant that you want to put a lockbox on a property that there's currently tenant occupied? You need tenant's permission for that, right? So there's 2 parts to that form. I would personally not do this. I know that there are people that do, so I would be uncomfortable letting people into a property that's tenant occupied. I don't want to get sued. I just don't want to get sued. I don't want my landlord to get sued. I don't want the tenant calling and saying, I'm missing my iPad, right? I have no control over that. So just gotta be careful. All right, if you have an entity rental property owner, then you're gonna check this box, check here if it's entity. You'll enter the name of the authorized signers and the name of the entity. So this is usually gonna be a trust. It's usually gonna say here on number, I'll check the box and I'll put here number 5, the JJ Wallack Trust, Family Trust or whatever, and then I'll put legally authorized signer, JJ Wallack. All right, then I'll fill out the rental property owner area. Then you're gonna put Keller Williams, your name, our address, your phone number, your email, your DRE number. This is Keller Williams's DRE number. Okay, now here's the rental property owner disclosure that's part of the lease listing. So what are we asking them to sign? So John, what do they need to sign? They never lived there.
Yeah,
They never lived there. What are they signing? Okay. Is the property built before 1978? Yes or no?
Yes.
Do you have any reports pertaining to lead-based paint? No, I don't have any reports. Were there any renovations done with lead-based paint surfaces? I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. So whether a government health official has issued an order that the property's been contaminated by meth.
Oh,
You know, that is crazy.
Okay.
So now we live in the world of meth and no more crack.
I mean, look, if I go to a
yeah,
property,
that's good one.
if I go to a property and I walk in the backyard and there are spots that have nothing growing, I need to look at the spots and say, were there planters here? Were there trees here? Or were there chemicals being dumped here? What's going on?
Yeah. I had a tenant there 50
For
years.
this to be here, that means that is
It's
happening a
common.
lot.
It's common, of course. No, but it's common. Yes.
What's such offended? They said that.
Okay, so periodic pest control, water submeters, is there a separate submeter? Was there ever mold on the property? Is there asbestos that you're aware of? Is the property in an HOA? Has there been a death on the premises in the past 3 years? Do you know the manner of death? Wow,
I mean-
look at that. If yes, the manner of death could be a material fact. So that's saying, look, if there was a murder on the property, if there was a suicide on the property, that could be a material fact. If it's AIDS, then you do not have to disclose that. Yeah, AIDS is protected. All right, other
You
material,
discriminate against someone that has,
unprotected sex.
right. Welcome to America.
Only the medical.
It was the disco time.
I haven't heard about AIDS in a while, thank God. I haven't, I mean, it's not prevalent in the media. It hasn't gone away. I think that people just aren't dying from it anymore because of the medication.
Exactly.
Okay, other material facts. Is there any other material fact affecting the premises? So anything that the landlord knows.
The
That
house is haunted.
house is on, yes, that would be the place to put it.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be the place. Okay. Now there's another disclosure. What is this? Water conserving plumbing fixtures, water heaters, carbon monoxide detectors, smoke alarm, pool spa safety. If you're doing a lease that has a pool, make sure that you include a pool disclosure, right? Bed bug, are you aware of any previous bed bug infestation? Is there a separate gas meter, electric meter, water meter? Any non-permitted areas or rooms? Where's the parking? Where's the storage? When is trash pickup? Are the tenants responsible for watering the lawn? Are there any pet policies? What about keys, mailboxes, laundry appliances? Okay, so again, the landlord has to fill this stuff out. In our housing, we cannot discriminate. We can only discriminate against money. Do you have enough money to rent the property? Is your income sufficient? Credit, it's the only thing the landlord can determine tenants. Money. All right,
Yeah.
California, I don't even want to talk about anything else. If you're a landlord and you're determining whether you should have a certain tenant in the property, do they have excellent credit? Can they afford to
The
make?
color is green. Don't get into that other.
And that's it. That's all we're looking at. All right. California Consumer Privacy Act. So during the process of doing real estate, there's going to be personal information that gets shared. So under California law, brokers and MLSs are required to maintain records for 3 years. So I don't know. Our responsibility as agents is we have to keep all records for 3 years. We usually keep them for 5 as practice, but law says 3. So, and broker compliance. At the end of our deal, we need to upload all our documents to Command. And that's how the broker has compliance. Before the broker gives you your check, they're gonna make sure all your documents are uploaded to Command. So I can help you with that. Brian can help you with that. Joshua can help with that.
JJ, if you have a house and you rent one,
Yes.
let's say that not a one room to the tenant, somebody, then how does it work out here? You have to,
Renting rooms,
let's say that you have a room in there back there, not the ADU, I mean, it's
Okay.
just. that's
renting
something-
rooms is different.
it's
You
difficult.
can discriminate a little bit on renting a room,
You go, okay.
but you have to be careful.
You say I want a lady or.
Well, I mean, I'm using the word discriminate, that's not. If I am a single woman renting a room and I don't want a man to
Right,
rent the
right,
room,
right.
that's okay,
That's, yeah.
that's okay. So,
But you have to give all the disclosure also to him. Though. He's a house-
okay, I don't wanna
You're not
say that I'm
involved.
familiar with the laws. I don't
No,
know.
no.
I would say,
Says many-
I'm probably not gonna take that landlord
Right.
as a client
Right.
and put
right,
their room in the MLS.
Right.
I'm probably not gonna
Not
take that
gonna
client.
Even broker agents work with.
I'm not,
Okay.
I'm not sure about renting a room. So that's a very personal.
That's it, yeah.
And what if, God forbid, something happened to like, I don't even want to be involved in that. I just don't. Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
try to do someone a favor and then what happens,
yeah.
right? Never, so. But I know if you're gonna discriminate against anything except money, that would be the only way, right? But
Yeah.
even that, I don't want to touch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so here's the multiple listing service addendum. This is the form that you need to add. It's the one that gives you permission not to put the property into the MLS within 2 days. The way that I fill this out is at the bottom, I'll check this box. Seller instructs broker to begin marketing the property to the public on a certain day. I don't put in a certain day. I'll just say when photo ready. That will allow me time to do whatever I need to do. If there's any delay, that's fine. So I'm usually gonna paint what needs to get painted, fix what needs to get fixed. And then when everything's done, I'll get my photographer in. It's still gonna take my photographer a day or two to get the photos back to me. And then we're ready to go. Okay, and that will allow me to put the property into the MLS and start as day 0 on the MLS. Right? Because I don't wanna, if I don't do this, then I need to put the listing start date of 2 weeks ago. And then it's gonna come on the MLS and it's gonna say 14 days on the market.
So you send this to the,
So technically, I'm supposed to email compliance at the MLS.com
okay,
with my listing and this, showing them that it's not gonna be put into the MLS until it's photo ready. Technically, that's what I'm supposed to do.
How long it usually takes once you sign this and by the.
Depends what needs to get done. So if the property is ready to get photographed,
Mhm.
right? So then I just need to make the appointment with my photographer and he needs to return the photographs. to me. So I'm asking the photographer, how long do you need? Are you available today? Can you get me the photos tonight? Right? So it's up to the photographer. And then we'll need, you'll need a few hours to get the property into the MLS.
what if the landlord says, I have photographs for this property, and then the photographs look
Okay.
great, but then the property looks like
Okay.
slums of Beverly
Right,
Hills?
okay, so just 2 things with photographs. Photographs belong to the landlord, belong to the photographer. So you can't use the previous agent's photographs.
Okay,
And if a landlord is giving you photographs, you need to say, where did you get these from?
okay.
Who took them? Because if you start using someone else's photographs, you're gonna get sued. When you catch that celebrity snapshot and you call TMZ
Yeah,
and say, can I have $1,000 for my snapshot? They're gonna say, did you take this? You need to sign something saying, I took this photo, it belongs to me and I'm assigning my rights. So, if you take a photo, you're the owner of it.
So if seller checks this. Or no, we give this form to seller checked already.
We're gonna give it to the seller checked already and saying that photo ready, yeah, we're not putting it in the MLS until it's photo ready. Because there's a 2-day rule in the MLS that we have to put our listings into the MLS within 2 days of getting a listing. There's something totally different called the clear cooperation policy. There's a nationwide policy called the clear cooperation policy that says once you publicly advertise a property, it needs to go into the MLS within 24 hours. Okay, so if I put a sign in front of a property, it has to go on the MLS within 24 hours. That's clear cooperation policy. That's different than the MLS policy of putting something in 2 days.
So when will be the right time to put the sign
I
on the,
can put the sign anytime I want, but I have to go into the MLS within 24 hours. Because that's public.
when do you put?
I'll put my sign there maybe 1 day before I put it in the MLS. Right? Sometimes it's gonna go in the MLS before my sign goes in. Right? Okay, so you also have a box here, seller instructs not to market the property to the public. That's gonna be possible, it's a pocket listing. Right, if someone tells you they want a pocket listing, that's the checkbox. Okay, here's the clear cooperation policy I was talking about. Don't worry about it. All right, seller authorization. Seller authorizes broker to put in the MLS that seller is willing to consider offers asking for concessions. This is how your seller is allowing you to advertise that they're willing to consider paying for buyer broker commissions or any other fee the buyer is asking. This is where it's done. So right now, this form, MLSA, is not bundled with the lease listing agreement. It is bundled with the regular residential listing agreement. They forgot to bundle this. They will. And right now, they haven't done it yet, but they will. The attorney that was here yesterday, I said to her, this is not bundled. She goes, it's not. So she was surprised. It will get. Well, right now it's not, so you'll need to add it. When you're entering your listing into the MLS, it's gonna say, is seller offering concessions? And you have to check the box, yes. If they have been, this is where they are giving you the authorization on this form. You also have a checkbox here. Seller instructs broker to publish in the MLS. The taking of images is limited to those persons preparing appraisal or inspection reports. So this, if the seller doesn't want any pictures taken in their property, they can check this box and instruct you, do not let anyone take pictures of my property. Right? You have there are very private people that don't want. So this is where the seller can instruct you not to let them. I get people that walk in my open houses all the time. Do you mind if I take photos? Do you mind if I take video? I have to look at that person and think to myself, who is this person? Are they going to case the house and video and then rob it later? Right? It's the innocent ones that you got to be worried of. The innocent looking ones are the really ones you got to worry about. So, you know, if I know the agent, I've seen them around, I know they have listing, yeah, that's fine, no problem. If it's a crazy person that's, you know, hey, Instagram here, yeah. You have to protect your listing sometimes. You don't want your listing being put out there like, can you believe what they're asking for this part? Like, if your landlord or owner sees that, they might get really furious, right? So just be careful allowing people permission to video. Right. Here is the other Keller Williams addendum. And this is the one that says we're not property managers. Landlord and tenant acknowledge and agree that Keller Williams and its agents are in no way acting as property managers. That's it. They're just acknowledging them. Okay, here's the security deposit disclosure. This form is here to determine if the RPO is accepted. It's not needed with a lease listing. So this is the form that you will include with your lease if you're getting a 2-month security deposit. If you're only getting 1 month security deposit, you don't need this form. Doesn't matter. You're only getting 1 month. If you're getting 2 months security deposit, you need to tell the tenant, I'm exempt, right? Yeah.
If the 2 month is that for a furnished apartment?
Yeah. No, 2 months would be for a landlord that wants 2 months. So furnished or unfurnished.
Okay, I thought they could only take 1 month after.
You can take 1 month. A landlord is only allowed 1 month, whether it's furnished or unfurnished, if they're not exempt.
Okay, if they exempt.
If they're exempt. So what
Okay,
makes the
got it.
landlord exempt? So let's look at this. A landlord may demand to receive a security deposit in an amount equal to 2 months' rent if the following 2 conditions exist. Don't you love how I'm just highlighting the exact language? I'm cutting out all the BS here. A landlord may demand to receive a security deposit in an amount equal to 2 months' rent if the following 2 conditions exist. The landlord is a natural person, so they have to be a person, or an LLC in which all members are natural persons. Okay, there, I stand corrected. It can be an LLC if all the members of the LLC are people. So that means the LLC can't be owned by another LLC or a corporation.
It's so funny because I know in the future, one day it's gonna say that LLC are actually robots and we'll be like, yeah, check.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And the landlord owns no more than 2 residential rental properties that collectively include no more than 4 dwelling units offered for rent. Okay. So it can be, a natural person includes a beneficiary of a trust, and a trust means revocable or irrevocable. Okay. A landlord may not receive security deposits exceeding 1 month's rent if the prospective tenant is an active member of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Space Force, or Coast Guard, and is a member of the California National Guard, State Guard, or Naval Militia.
What a militia.
Naval Militia.
Dang.
Called or ordered into active service. So If your tenant is an active service member, they have to be active. Then you can only get 1 month's rent. And there are only two ways I know to break a lease. There are only two ways that I know of to break a lease. Well, there are 3 ways to break a lease. If the property becomes uninhabitable, then you can break the lease. It's uninhabitable. The second way is someone gets called to active duty. They can break a lease. The third way is stalking. If you can prove that you're being stalked and you have police reports and you're in danger of in fear of your life,
Wow.
that can break a lease. Those are the only ways I know of that can break a lease.
You have to have a police report.
It doesn't
Yeah,
say
yeah.
anything about illegal in Saudi, in this country illegally. I mean, how can you, somebody fill out your form, you don't know whether they are, I mean, they don't have social security, obviously.
Right, so you're gonna have people that come from other countries, they don't have any tax IDs,
Social
and
security.
they wanna rent your place, and you're gonna say, pay me 1 year upfront.
And you what?
Give me 1 year prepaid rent, 1 year prepaid rent. Painted it?
Yeah.
Don't get into a green card and all this kind of stuff. Just show me the money.
Money, like, because what are you gonna do? You can't file bad credit, what are you gonna do? They don't have credit.
Or like, even if they have more than 4 units, in this case, can they demand more than 1 deposit?
Once a landlord owns more than 4 units, they can't get more than 1 month's security deposit.
But if the person doesn't have SSL?
So if you're gonna collect more than 1 month rent in advance, you have to collect either 1 month rent or 6 or more months. You can't get 2 months rent, 3 months rent, 4 months rent, 5 months rent. You have to get 6 months or more rent.
Is that new?
No, it's just no one knows about it.
They collected from me when I didn't have
Like,
SSL.
look, people are gonna do what people are gonna do.
People are.
So if you don't know, you don't know. So now you know. All right, so that's it for this class.
JJ, sorry, what was the name of the last form you were just sharing?
The last form is called the Security Deposit Disclosure Grant, SDDA. And this is, I included in here, so you have the language.
Thank you, JJ.
What makes a landlord exempt?
Join the
Yes.
NIL.
Can you
They
please go
told
with
me that I needed now to get a test.
the commission?
So-
I'm giving a check,
Then on the
commission check, I don't, there are many other form comes in.
So commissions. So here,
There's a very eventually.
And now they emailed me and said, oh, now you have to take this test.
Headline or something.
No, they said they made a mistake and they all.
so let's say your rent is 10,000 a month
Right.
and your security deposit is also 10,000.
That.
The form that you had, that
Or they.
Form.
Wow, it's not.
Then I'm going,
Which then, you know, they'll vote your license.
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
actually, yes.
Super shady.
God, yeah.
It's hard to keep track of all this stuff.
It's intense.
It's position.
I feel like I could take.
It's in there, right?
I'll pass.
Well, you're gonna have to fill it out. So
Right.
you're gonna put how much the security deposit is, what the first month rent is. Sometimes you're gonna have first term. Like you might have someone paying 6 months rent, right? So then that would be, or they're paying,
Right,
they're paying more than a month. They're paying.
Yeah.
Like I do Zoom.
I would write,
They.
just put the amount and then you're gonna add it up and it would be a
I
total.
have to.
And then it instructs the tenant how to make this. Make this commission check payable.
Sorry, it's too
Make this
intense.
commission check payable to this program.
Like
And then make this amount of money.
After it's better.
Right.
Wednesday.
And then everybody's.
It is.
Yeah, but I'll send you the information.
Cashier's check.
Site.
Yes.
It is so good.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, JJ.
All right. Thank you, everybody online.
Thank you, JJ.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, JJ.
It's a very informative day.
It really is.